Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am. This has been a pretty good week. I've missed you. I don't know if you could tell because I occasionally send you texts, even though I know you're not supposed to be working.
I know.
But it's been such a good week, and it's weird when it's a good week and I can't share it with you. But anyway,
You get to share it with me now.
Exactly. Exactly. And so you're on location. You kind of look like you're right now. You kind of look like you're floating in front of a fake background, but it's a real background.
No, it's real. Yeah. And so I am in what is considered the den in this room. So we ended up getting a VRBO. We are actually on St. Andrews Bay, which is right inside of Panama City. And so there's the island or Panama, and then behind it is the bay, and then we're on an island or a area strip right behind it on the bay.
How fun. Yeah. And so and your bonus son is playing baseball?
He is, yes. Okay. So he got to play yesterday. He is a sophomore, so he is playing up on the varsity team. So he did get to play yesterday. Oh. I have an amazing video that I got. He's a catcher, and so he threw out the guy on second base, and I got it on video. So I was super excited about that.
I love that. Oh, yeah. I love catching. I played first base. I was the first female on our little league team here in my city of West Bend. When I was a kid. Yeah, they didn't have the girls had softball and boys had little league, actual baseball. Yep. And because I had three brothers, and my older brother was a sport fanatic, he would just throw ball, line drives at me as hard as he could, and I had to catch them. Otherwise I would get bruised. So I could catch anything. So I played first base or catcher. That's what I always played. So I love it.
I played softball growing up, so I started with shortstop. So that's what I played until I ended up going to catcher. So I also did catcher in high school. And then also after high school, my mom was on my softball team, and also Carmen and Myra and their mother. So we were all on a team, and we ended up going to state. It was so that was
super fun.
I know.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, baseball is so fun. Everything about it. I love baseball. I love the peanuts. I love the peanuts.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I'm just always delighted by throwing peanut shells on the ground. I was at a restaurant. You used to be able to do that at Texas Roadhouse, I think.
Can you not still? I don't know. We don't go in there because Riley's allergic to peanuts, so we don't do anything peanut oriented anymore.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just delights me. I ended up once in a bar in Canada where you could do that, and I was like, I need to live here. This is amazing.
I can just beer and peanuts. I can throw shit on the floor.
Right, protein and beer. I can literally live here.
Well, we have lots of people coming in.
Yeah. Good morning, friends.
Yeah. And so let me pull up some people. Let's see. Oh, man.
Because we have a
I gotta get back up to the top. All right. So Elizabeth. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning. So I'm so glad that you are here. And so I have connected with Elizabeth through Jesse, through the bungee jumpers that I'm a part of. And so I have enjoyed her. She's a kick-ass female leader in the construction industry. So
I think I've seen, I don't know if I've been on something with her or whatever, but I think she's pretty smart.
She is, yeah. Awesome. We also have Jen coming in. She says good morning and happy Friday. Sending my good juju to both of you and the audience. Thank you, Jen. She said, let's do this. I'll be on and off as usual, sending sunshine. Yes. So I'm in her state, but I'm in the Panhandle.
Yes. Yeah.
Karen says, oh, she was a baseball mom and her son was a catcher, then went to pitching. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a cousin who pitched. He made it pretty far, but then he didn't, get up to the big leagues, but he was in like one of the lower things.
Yeah.
Cool.
So minor leagues?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It was a sports ball,
The one down from MLB.
Right.
Joel coming in. He says, good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. I've missed you guys.
Yeah. You missed a great meeting yesterday, and Joel cracked me up. Amy did an awesome icebreaker. So fun.
Oh, nice. I missed it.
Yes. She asked. And so if anyone wants to chime in the comments, she asked, her icebreaker was, if you were arrested, like if you're, you don't have to admit to being a criminal. If you were arrested, what would your friends immediately assume you were arrested for? And it was hilarious. So,
oh man, I'm sorry I missed that one.
Yes.
Oh, I'm thinking for myself as well, and I'm thinking for you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got so many things coming to mind.
Oh yeah, mine are like my friends. What they would say is nothing would surprise me. Nothing, right? Like nothing. Like she, like I got stabbed in a bazaar in Calcutta or something. Like they would be like, what? Yeah.
What immediately came to mind actually for both of us is we were somewhere and we like stripped off our clothes and started running somewhere, or something like that. We got arrested for indecent exposure.
Yes. And I have gotten arrested for indecent exposure.
Oh my gosh. All right.
It was for comedy's sake.
We have Carmen coming in. Good morning. My favorite two beautiful badasses. Good morning, Carmen. I was just talking about you. I don't know if you were on along with my mom. And so she said, love the video of grandson. So I was just talking about us playing softball.
Yeah.
That was good times. And then also Kim say good morning and happy Friday to my favorite kick-ass and badass ladies. And Carmen also said good Friday. And then I think it's Megan maybe.
Noelle.
Oh, Noelle. Yep. I just saw on LinkedIn user, hadn't read it yet. And so Noelle coming here. Yay. So I met Noelle and Dr. Colleen, who's going to be coming on today here soon, at the same event. So Megan had an event down in Savannah, and that's how I met all of them.
Oh, during the hurricane. You guys were hurricane buddies.
Yeah, my hurricane buddies. Yes. So they got, I ended up leaving. I was like, I can't handle not having any electricity.
No, you were like in Savannah without air conditioning.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Kim said, what is Sarah's answer? So I think I just answered that.
Public nudity.
Yeah,
Public
probably. All right. And then Lisa's joining us. She said, good morning, my beautiful badasses. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
Lisa's all over the place. And so I'm loving seeing all the different things she's doing.
Yeah. It's great. Spreading the good love.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's jump into things. I would like to bring on Dr. Colleen Saringer. And so I have unmuted her, and let me move over to the 3 panel and we make our sandwich. So good morning.
Good morning. I was jotting down some things. I want to answer the arrest, but
Yes.
I have two comments though that I want to make. First, I personally, this is my personal opinion, think that the catcher position on a baseball team or a softball team is the most badass position. So that hence the fact that both of you played it.
Yes.
And the name of this has badass in it. So that was one thing.
Yes.
Second, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and we had a restaurant called The Ground Round, and you could eat the peanuts and throw the shells on the floor, and it was our favorite place to go growing up.
Oh my gosh.
It's closed. Yeah. And then the third is I'm a prankster. I love to play jokes on people. And so for me, I think my friends would assume that I stole construction barrels from a construction site and put them in another friend's front yard. And that's what I was arrested for.
I love it.
I love it.
What an
I
amazing
love it.
entrance.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, right. I think what are we? We're at episode 99. That has been the best entrance thus far. Cheers, Dr. Colleen.
Yes.
You did it.
Well, you gave us a great intro into different aspects of things we wouldn't ask about, but maybe let's start off with who is Dr. Colleen Saringer and what are you most passionate about?
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me come in hot with some fun things right away.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that was the best.
So, Colleen Saringer, Dr. Colleen is how you can recognize me on LinkedIn. So it's a PhD. I'm not the person that saves people. I always have to say that. PhD only. Originally from Cleveland, Ohio, because I mentioned that quickly about the ground round. Originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but my husband and I, we've resided in Atlanta, Georgia now for 20 years, which is mind blowing. So we're the typical, we'll only be there for a year to 5 years, and 20 years later, you're still there.
Now you're Atlantean.
That's what Atlanta does. Yeah.
That's what Atlanta does. So and then just kind of a context of like, what do I do? Who am I? How did you find me? So Sarah had mentioned that we had met at a construction conference that was pulled together in Savannah last year. So in 2023, I left my corporate gig, and that corporate gig, I'll share a little bit more in just a second, but I left my corporate gig to go out on my own and to really focus on trying to change our workplaces for the better through the lens of mental health. Construction is one of my key focuses, and I'll share that in kind of the key moments, the who I am piece, but construction is deep in my blood, deep in my roots. And so anyways, that's how we met by way of why I was even in Savannah at the construction conference. So that was one part, right, of the intro. And then there is key moments.
What you're most passionate about?
Oh, most passionate about. So most definitely the mental health piece. I mean, that so much, right? I go, just because it's rooted in all of us. We all have it. We're all impacted by it on a daily basis. And before I find myself, whether it's dust in the wind, 6 feet under, however I decide to go, I am going to make an impact on our workplaces and try to remove the negative impact that it can have on us, respecting that can have such a positive impact on our health. So that's what I'm most passionate about.
I love it. I got goosebumps just from hearing you talk about, what you're going to do before you die. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could now get into a little bit more about some things that have happened, key moments within your life that really made you who you are today.
Yeah. So I love this question because, again, when I'm out, how I had mentioned, construction is rooted in me. And it's really what has kind of led me, when I take a step back and pause and reflect, it's really what brought me to kind of where I am today and why I'm really out there trying to make this impact by way of public speaking. So when I was 5, my parents opened a construction business. So in the sheet metal industry. So I bleed blue collar. That's why on my LinkedIn it says I'm a blue collar woman wrapped in a PhD package. I bleed blue collar. And so all that to say, when I was 13 years old, that's when I learned that my dad planned on taking his life after work, but instead he drove himself to the hospital because he had a nervous breakdown. And like within that, there's a stigma story, right? Because there's a stigma story rooted in many of us. And the stigma story that I learned and then became a part of my fabric was, we can't tell anyone that this happened. If people find out, they won't want to work with dad. We could lose the business because they'll think he's crazy, all these things. And the way that I translated it was that if you're an adult and you're struggling, you have to keep it a secret because it could ruin you.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that is something that I carried with me into my adulthood. and have struggled myself. I mean, sat on my own couch and thought, I could go into the garage, turn on the car, and let the engine run. So that's kind of one key moment. But I think the second key moment, again, which is why I'm so focused on the workplace, is what I just mentioned is very stigma focused, very stigma heavy.
Yeah.
And I want to honor that because that's important. But there's also this other, I call it the third leg of the stool that we don't talk about enough. And it's the fact that there's these workplace factors. So when I go back and think of my dad, the reason he wanted to take his life was because of the stresses from high job demand, low support, and no control.
Yeah.
Right? And those things are actually tied I'll bring on my nerdy research hat. Those things are actually tied from a research standpoint to contributing, elevating, and increases the chances of someone actually taking their life. So that's rooted in him. There's obviously things that came along in my path, which is why I found myself thinking, is this the day that I should do this? Right? Things that were impacting me from work. All that to say, before I'll stop, just verbal diarrheaing, I think we can't ignore that, mental health is messy, and it doesn't mean that the workplace is 100% all of it, but we spend the majority of our waking time at work. We're lying to ourselves if we don't think it plays a bigger role than we're talking about. So anyways, those are it. Again, if I were to think, what are these key moments? Those are the key moments.
Holy shit. First of all, thank you so much. Your vulnerability. You're talking about a topic that is affecting us currently in so many ways. We just in our company had one of our family members in our company son committed suicide a couple weeks ago.
I'm so sorry.
So it's a topic yesterday in my team meeting that I have for just the women that report to me. It's a small team. We spent the entire hour crying, talking about this topic, sharing how it's affected us. It affected each of us in different ways. I myself I've actually committed suicide. I survived. I have attempted many times. So it's a super important topic, and you're right. It's the stigma, and we have to talk about it. And we don't need today's show to be about that specifically, but it's really interesting to me how much it's coming up right now. And I think that's really meaningful in a lot of ways. But I think it's a beautiful thing that your dad survived, that you survived, and that your passion and life's work is now about making people's lives better through work, right? Through enjoying what they're doing, through being passionate about taking care of themselves while they're taking care of their careers and whatnot.
Yeah. Cate, I lost you a little bit at the end there. Yeah. I do have an amazing comment that I want to bring up. So Dr. Joseph.
Hi, Dr. Joseph. He's been here a few times.
And he says, hey, ladies, happy Friday. It's always uplifting to see your authentic conversations. You're truly inspiring. I've had the pleasure of catching up with you a few times, and more importantly, I've seen your impactful work featured on international platforms. So thank you. Continue to be safe, inclusive spaces that foster open engagement and awareness, raising such as yours through shared stories, insightful posts. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And it really is just an impactful story that you have. And I know that this is one of the things that you talk about as a speaker. And when you really think about the things that are going on in your life, one of the things that became really apparent to me as a leader, as I became a leader, is I was impacted in my personal life by business. and I was impacted in my business life by my personal life. And I tried to keep both of those separate for the longest time. And it wasn't until I finally had people that started to understand more about me and some of the things that happened to me whenever I was younger, that's when, as a leader, I started to make an impact, is because of the vulnerability of talking about things that you're always been told don't talk about. There's certain things you just don't talk about. You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about mental health. You don't talk about sex, like all of those types of things. And
that we all do.
But those are things that impact us in life. And so for me, it's, how can we have better conversations, or how can we have conversations that are respectful and civil and really learn from each other and not look at what's right or wrong, but just sitting and understanding each other has been the key thing that I've really tried to focus on.
Yeah, I love that you said that because, well, first of all, also, I really am so sorry about your colleague's son. That's absolutely heartbreaking. That's a whole nother conversation that we could have today. But
Yeah.
so I don't want to dismiss that. The other thing is, to your point about communication. I mean, the things that have been told and sometimes are still told, right? Don't talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that that's how we are who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of whatever our religious upbringing was, because of whatever the political conversation was.
Right.
Yet we don't want to talk about them. We just need to find better ways to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And as you know, we're talking about the Law of Correspondence this month. And really, we're talking about how our inner world, our inner self, our beliefs, and the things that our emotions, all of those things, how they end up impacting the outer world that surrounds us, which includes business, which includes our personal lives. And so when you look at professional development and leadership, how might leaders make the biggest impact?
So a couple of things. I think in my like, if I could create my own world, like Colleen Topia,
I love it.
I would get rid of titles first and
Mm.
foremost, right? Because I think as soon as we put on that leader title,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden our lens in life becomes different, right? It becomes, I have to look strong. I have to make sure that people see me in control. One of the things that we talked about before we all came on together is I can't be friends with this person, right?
Right.
We put these restrictions, these rules on us.
Yeah.
So I think one is, as a leader, remembering that that's just a made up title in the workplace. It
It's
really
just
is. That's
another
what it
label.
is.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's another label. So that's one thing. The other is, at the end of the day, we have to remember that it starts with each one of us, which goes back to the law, right? Like this is like the thing I always say, we have to turn the finger in before we turn the finger out. So point it in to you before you blame it or look to the outside world. The pause, the reflection, it has to come here first, especially as a leader if we are overseeing other individuals. Because the unfortunate thing from a leadership standpoint, we immediately are looking out at our team and pointing, right? Because that's our team. That's who's out there. That's who we need to oversee or guide or whatever, be responsible for all these really hard things. But we have to first pause and reflect internally. It starts with self, period.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely. I love everything that you have said from the moment I met you today.
Thank you.
It's like super important, and it's always been for me. Those skills were so separate, right? Like, so for so long, I felt like I was really successful in my business area of my life, right? And then but I wasn't having as much success in my personal life, or, I mean, and it depends on how you define success, right? But I could handle like really hard emotional things when it came to work, but I couldn't in my personal life. I had such a hard time. And once I learned to like really truly weave them and apply like the lessons and the thoughts and the behaviors and incorporate them across the board, like things started to click a little bit more for me, right? Because we in all of those areas, we are the habits and the thoughts and the things that we do, right? And so if you're wrapping process or leadership around it, and those things contain attributes that help your behaviors, or that help, help you learn or whatever, that's what really matters. It doesn't matter how you define it, or what label it is, or what title it comes with. It's about the shit that you think and you do, right?
Yeah.
Well, one quick reaction that I just had to that. I love how you said once you were able to pause and see that it's the same, it's connected. I go back to your personal values. And I know, when people think, oh, it's soft, or I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
But I just think of one of my personal values is integrity.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it shows up the same at home and with my friends and when I'm out like on the sidewalk as it does when I'm at the workplace, right? So it's even though that exercise feels like, oh, maybe it feels woo-woo, or it feels soft, or kumbaya, it's such an important exercise, right? To just what grounds me. And then I think it's what can help us even kind of blend those two worlds together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Cate and I love values. We talk about that all the time on this show.
Yep.
And understanding what your personal values are, that helps you also not only to understand, are you with the right group? Like, do these individuals have the same type of values and things that are important to me? But also it helps you to identify when you can also set boundaries. Like, okay, well, we may not be in alignment on this, but here's where my boundary is, which for me is also important as well. It's like we can have differing values while also, identifying where the boundary or when we need to stop this conversation as well.
Yeah. Totally. And it helps me know what my like purpose is, and but what my choice is going to be in that moment, and how am I going to regulate myself? Because when you have, like, if you align your, and it sounds like buzzwords, right? It really does. But if you align your thinking with your values, the choices become so clear, right? Like, because it gives you this barometer. It's a metric. It's a KPI. It's something that you can measure against and almost like track, but it's something, that truly drives you and truly makes a difference in your life and gives you purpose.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said, is that for us to be able to go inward. So as leaders, going inward first. And one of the things that I've always tried to do whenever I work with employees and we set goals and things like that, I try to self-reflect first on, as a leader, am I providing you what it is you need to be successful? So for me, one of the things in setting goals for someone is, first, I reflect on myself. Like, did I provide you as a leader what it is you needed? So I have to self-reflect about that. But then it requires the employee to self-reflect. Like, did I not make this a priority? Or, what is in my way related to us trying to accomplish the things that we've outlined? But I guess I want to understand, when you have let's say as an employee, I'm working with someone that isn't self-reflective. What might you suggest to the audience if they have a leader that isn't reflective or isn't self-aware about the impact that they have on others? How might they address that?
So this conversation is so timely. I just finished this book that I think captures a lot in it captures a lot of like thoughts that I've always had, but also it's just a really insightful book, I think, for everyone, and just regardless, where we are in the state of the world today. But the book is called Calling In, and the author is Loretta Ross. Highly recommend it. Ultimately, I think so. The whole reason I'm saying this is because it's getting at what the entire thing we were just talking about and answering the question that you just posed.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, what Loretta talks about in this book, which again, it just like mind blowing and so simple. The initial reaction that we have to something that feels threatening to us. So let's just say again, like my supervisor, my boss, whatever, my colleague, whoever, they have reacted in a way they're not being self-aware, whatever the case may be. The first reaction that I have is a reaction from whatever my trauma is, whatever my upbringing was, whatever my environment that like is stimulating that fear, right? So that's a pause before we even then decide if we want to call the person in.
Mm-hmm.
And that just means we're not going to change that supervisor, that we're not going to change their behavior. That is not our job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do is we can peel the layer of the onion back and ask questions to help kind of navigate and guide them to maybe where we need them to be to support us. So that is how I would answer that question. It's through additional questions. And those questions can be tricky, but they can also be simple, as in, I'm trying to think of like the whole, like, what would be something that the person's not self-aware? I'm trying to think of an example.
Let's say avoidance. They're avoiding, talking to a client, or they're avoiding, basically managing.
So it would be, so that the basically managing, that's a tough one, right? So that would be a whole different. But that's an important one. So talking to a difficult client, it's a simple, I shouldn't say simple because it's hard, right? Because a lot of us are challenged around communication, and I want to honor that because that's also very scary. But can you help me understand why we're not having this conversation? This is what I'm receiving. It's always about what I'm receiving, right? Because we don't want to impose threat on our manager, right? Or our supervisor or whoever. So this is what I'm receiving. Can you help me understand X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
So it's really about turning it to us too. And that can help us navigate going forward. Because again, we're not going to change someone's behavior. That's not our job.
Right. Yeah, it's not effective. It's yeah. But I love that turning inward and getting curious. Jen and I talk about that. I know Sarah does as well. Getting curious. Being aware that your first reaction, your gut response, whatever you want to call it, is coming from a place of trauma or a place of survival or wherever, but it's environmental. It's sometimes completely beyond your control, right? But if you take that pause and then get curious, there's so much value there to understand. And that's so deeply connected to the law of correspondence, because to truly be, what is in is what is out, or, as below, so is above, you have to go beyond that awareness. Like, you have to dig deeper to truly make the internal be what you want, so that the external is reflecting that.
Yeah, no matter what, it all starts with us. Period. There is no solution externally yet. It's internal first, and then it's external. So that pause and reaction and reflection first on me, and then how can I call in? What questions can I ask and get curious? Love that word.
Yeah. And I do have to say that Jesse and Jen I'm a part of the bungee jumpers, and it's been one of the things that's been most helpful for me as a leader is learning how to have better questions. So those open-ended questions, in being curious, it's really allowed me to do exactly what you're saying is, okay, well, let me understand a little bit more about what's going on here. And so finding that open-ended question versus the yes or no or this or that, type of answer to really probe a little bit more to understand. And that's one of the things we're now going through with further on our team, is also to help them understand open-ended questions, to be able to help them be more curious with our clients and dealing with situations there as well. But it's interesting because it's been helping us in our personal lives too. So when we spend time trying to ask open-ended questions to other people, keep in mind, not everybody's going to be open to wanting to answer them. That's one of the things that I've also found out. So sometimes the conversation is short, like, no, I don't want to get into this.
Yeah. You can't make them answer the questions.
Exactly. Yeah. But as I think about this, how can leaders be more mindful of how our upbringing impacts employees in our work environment? So if you were to give leaders some suggestions about how our personal lives might be impacting our employees, what are some things you might suggest for us to reflect upon?
It's good. I feel like this is going to sound so basic, and also just, again, what we've already been talking about. It's that reminder that no matter who, what, no matter the smile, no matter the frown, no matter whatever it is, even if it's the happiest person on your team, they too have shit underneath that smile.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's just it. It's like none of us are getting through life untouched. Everyone is coming in with something. So again, if I think about Colleen Topia, I wish that we could flip the lens and the lens be just that. Everyone in this room has X, Y, and Z, rather than trying to think, what percentage do you think has X, Y, and Z? Let's just flip it and assume this is one time I feel like it's okay. Let's assume that everyone is, so that we can come at it from a place of kindness or thoughtfulness or maybe additional awareness. Rather than saying, well, it might not be impacting us. There's only 1%, 1 in 5, 1 in whatever. No, let's just assume it's 5 and 5. And then we can address it differently.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I think that that's just it. Like, it is no matter what, it is everyone, including the leader.
Love that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's really cool. That's a much safer assumption, right? Like, and what's the harm in that assumption? If we can assume that we're all one, we're all humans, we're all affected by this, whether it's directly or just the knowledge of it, that's effective, right? Or that's traumatic too. Like, we're all affected. We all have reactions. We all have emotions. We all have mental health. So if we can make the assumption that it's always there and it's always all of us, that would be a great baseline to start from. Right?
Yeah. And the other thing that I'll share is, it's in, I'm putting my like old school consulting hat on. I can hear others, saying, again, not saying others on the call, but just like others from my consulting days, I can hear the response of, oh, well, people are going to take advantage of this. They're going to try to work the system, whatever the case may be. And that's, again, it comes down to communication. Are we, as leaders, it is our jobs to set kind of the ground rules. I always share this as well. And I use the example of, if your house is a shoes on or shoes off house for your guests, right? When somebody comes in your home, they want to know, do I leave my shoes on or do I take them off? It's your home, right? So if it's your business, if it's your leading the team, set the ground rules. People want to know. I do believe people want to do right. They want to do good. Really do believe that. So set the ground rules, help them be successful. And that all comes down to that communication piece.
Yeah. I love that. I do think that it's very important to I mean, it goes back to the values of the company. What is it that we're trying to accomplish from a mission and vision perspective? But for me, the values are probably the most important aspect of knowing, this is what we have set, in understanding what's going on from a company perspective. And as I start to think about that, one of the things that you and I have talked about offline as well is that we have human resources that is there to help people. But in a lot of ways, human resources has been moved to be more of a legal department in some ways, sort of a CYA, or, protect us from a legality perspective, versus actually adding the human aspect. The human, get rid of, yes, resources. They're supposed to be there for the humans aspect of things. How might we pivot if we had Colleen, Utopia, and the HR group was, the things that they went into human resources for? How could we get back to that human element versus the legality aspect of things, or maybe better balance or harmonize the two together?
So here's how I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to kind of back out to come back in. So I think the unfortunate thing is that, again, the department, what the title stands for, this has nothing to do with the lovely people that are in it. I have a lot of friends that are human resource professionals, right? But what the department itself stands for is there to protect the business. The business includes people. So it is a compliance department, right? Most human resource department, I shouldn't say most, many are run by a past lawyer. They typically have a legal background. There's a reason, because it's compliance, right? If you think about the function of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that to say that the unfortunate thing is that that's how the department started. Then what happened over time is businesses realize we actually have to take care of our people.
Mm-hmm.
We need someone to do that because that's not my job. So let's give it to human resources because they have that in their name. Let's give it to them. But unfortunately, we've set the human resources department for failure, because it's kind of like an oxymoron, working against each other, right?
Yeah.
We're here to protect the company, but we also want to protect you. I feel bad for those that are sitting underneath that department. I really do. So all that to say, in Colleentopia, what I would see happen is first and foremost is this. If we think about an organization, if we think about the values, if we think about mental health at the foundation, that is not one department's role. That is the entire organization's role. That is the role of the C-suite. That is the role of the person overseeing sales, the person overseeing HR, and then that's also the role of every single employee underneath it as well. So first and foremost, I would remove that from human resources, because again, of that oxymoron, and I would put it, if I have to put it somewhere, I would put it with operations, because then we can ensure that it's thread throughout every aspect of the organization. If, however, we can't, then we need to give human resources a seat at the leadership table. Oftentimes, the department is still viewed as this tactical department, not we need you to have a seat at the table. So that's that. And then I'll go down my other path of just basic practices of bringing kindness back to the workplace as a solution.
Yeah.
And all of this, if human resources can't do it, if the operations team can't do it, then let's just set a key principle that we're going to at least be kind to each other.
Yeah. No assholes.
Right? No asshole policy. No asshole policy.
Right.
So it's a long-winded answer, but does that get to your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria said that's the most accurate description of HR I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Truly, yeah, right. And it's not like people say, "Oh, well, we HR is at our leadership table, or they're on the same level of the org chart as the other leaders," But it's more than it needs to be as important as finance. It needs to be as important as operations. It needs to be as important because it is like the culture of the entire organization, right? Or at least it should be. So I've enjoyed people, like I'm kind of a no titles type of a person too, or like we all have our strengths. I mean, you can maybe have fun with the titles a little more than anything. But Sarah leads a lot of a big portion of our organization, and she staffs, if you want to use that term, according to strengths, right? And she looks for people that can complement what she knows she brings to the table, because that's really what it's about, right? It's about us all working together and complementing each other and making the cogs align correctly, right? So that happens best when everyone truly is at the table.
Yeah. And I think that's where the self-reflection really comes into play as well, is that, as each individual, we're going to have strengths and we're going to have weaknesses. And so I call upon, whenever I need a little bit more reflection, a lot of times I'll go to Cate and I'll be like, okay, I'm thinking about this situation. What are your thoughts on it? And then she provides me her take on things, or her reflection on things, because she's really good at just the empathizing with people and really connecting with people. And then I'll call upon Joel. Joel's very detail oriented, and he's very thoughtful in how it is that he approaches things. I'm like a decisive type person. Whenever it comes to a crisis, I'm your person, because I'm like, all right, here's what we need to do. Boom, 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 boom. But when we have time to reflect, I'm calling upon Joel. I'm like, okay, let's think about this. And he's like, here's all the details. He's also very thoughtful in how it is that he does things. So for me, it's calling upon those individuals, and they say the same thing. Like if I need someone to quickly, jump in and take care of a situation, I go to Sarah, that type of thing. So it's calling upon people and recognizing what their talents are, and also understanding what our weaknesses are. Like, the other day I was calling upon my inner Joel, like I was, and whenever I was writing something, just because that's, I've needed to be sensitive, but I'm very direct. So it's, finding that balance in things of what you do, but understanding the things you need to focus on to be more impactful in what it is that you're doing as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. We do have some comments coming in. So Fakiha is here. She said, our mental well-being matters more than workplace drama. Yes, get rid of the workplace drama. Our job should bring purpose and fulfillment, not drain our energy or peace of mind. And she said, in today's fast-paced work culture, where long to-do lists, endless meetings, and overtime have become the norm, it's easy to forget the most important priority, you. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph has some more amazing comments. They're long.
Yep.
I can read this one. You've clearly demonstrated how the roles and expectations imposed on people often silence the very voices that need to be heard. It's contradictory. We were expected to address critical issues, yet when those issues are personal, we're told not to speak up. But the truth is, we are who we are, shaped by those very experiences. And unless we share them, the outside world may never understand just how deeply they affect us. W.E. Du Bois, is that how I never know how to pronounce his last name, use the term double consciousness to provide insight. And I think he goes on, but I forgot about the term double consciousness. But I do, like, that's a Law of Correspondence phrase, right? Mm-hmm. Double consciousness. It's very dialectical. Like both can be true. So what is if you are reflecting on what is internal before you point that finger outward, just like Dr. Colleen says,
mm-hmm.
Then I think that's what double consciousness is, and where it has its most beauty and placement.
And Myra just said hello as well. So I just wanted to call her out as well. And so Maria just also added something. She said Dubois. Yeah, Dubois. I do it French, Dubois. So, yeah.
Once I get a mispronunciation stuck in my head, it never leaves. I don't know why. Like, there's just certain words that I can't, I don't know.
Yeah. So I love that, just the reflectiveness of, going back to the pointing inward aspect of things. If we all could do that more, I almost feel like sometimes I hear these things and I'm like, oh, I need to write that up and just like have it up on my wall to help remind me. And I think that that's a really good one to have like up in a sticky note or something like that. And it's like, before you point the finger, point it inward, just like a reminder, maybe just a pointer that's pointing back at me, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I love that.
Dr. Colleen, I think we need to, get you a shirt that has,
I think so too.
And maybe a mirror on it where it's, pointing back at you or something like that.
I love that. Merch is coming soon.
Yes.
Cool.
And so Maria also said, ha, same, and it drives my daughter wild.
I love it.
So I love that. And so, well, let me do this. How about we focus on, if you were to give final advice to people related to maybe reflection, what is it that you would maybe suggest in how people can be more reflective, or if they want to understand, like, how can I focus on being more reflective? What are some either exercises, techniques, or things that I could just ask myself whenever I'm in a situation? Because it's easy to say, like, point back, but sometimes people are like, but what questions or what things can I do to help remind me of those types of things?
So a couple things. I think I would say, first and foremost, I don't think we ever make it. I don't think we're ever done. Right. So
yeah,
I think that no matter what, it's ongoing and we need to pause and take notice consistently. We don't ever arrive. And that's okay. I'm still learning, right, about myself. So that's the first thing I would just say. I think we have to give ourselves like the grace and not feel ashamed that, what if we never get there?
Yeah.
So that's one. The second, and this is something that I always, when I'm out and about, especially in Atlanta traffic where it's a nightmare, I'm always like, just literally, okay, pause. Like literally, I'm like, breathe, take a deep breath, let them do their thing. Maybe they're having a bad day. And again, I know it sounds like so silly and so, but it's like, it is these little things. We don't need this giant, shiny solution. It is the little things of like, okay, that might have been on me. I'm going to relax. I'm not going to get too stressed out. So to me, like those just, again, bringing it here, like, let me first check me before I, want to give the middle finger to the person flat past me on 85 South, right?
Yeah.
So that, the other thing is, I think that I really do believe that we all need that, like that North Star. Again, it feels like such a buzzword, but it goes back to what we started when we first started to connect. Until I, even myself, really dove into taking a moment to jot down, like, who am I? What are my core values? To really sit down and write, like, what are the stories that I remember about growing up? What are the stories that are, if I were to put together a book of who Colleen Saringer is, what I experienced in life, what stories immediately come up? And then kind of go back and reflect on those, like reread them, or maybe have someone that you trust to read them and to help you see what you can't see. That's a really nice way to identify who you are. If you can't see it yourself, we're so close. It's so hard to see it ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That to me is the biggest thing that I would call attention to, is take time, if we haven't done it already, take time and really write some stories about yourself, what you remember, and see where those common threads are. and find those values, because that will ground you. That will ground you at work, at home, in the car, wherever the case may be. So that's like the third thing that I would say.
Yeah.
I love it. You've just phenomenal insight and advice, and you clearly, you know, I'm just going to bring it full circle to what you said in the beginning. You said you're not the type of doctor that saves people, but I kind of think if we lived in Colleen-topia, or if you know, we followed a lot of this advice, it would be like really safe, and it would be, you know, you would be saving people. So I think you should reframe that a little bit. You don't cut into people. You're not, but maybe you do. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that in a lot of ways, when you do work with someone, I can tell you, you know, I work with a depth psychologist, and in a lot of ways, she is cutting into me. In a lot of ways, it's cutting into my unconscious. It's cutting into things that I don't even realize about myself. So for me, I would say that in a lot of ways it is sort of cutting into us, but in maybe a different way. So that saving lives is really more about us becoming a better version of ourselves through the self-reflection and really understanding more about ourselves. I can tell you, I think it saves relationships. So maybe not saving lives, but at least saving relationships is one of the key things that I would say that that you do a part of your work.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so, well, I do want to, I do have an interesting question for you. What question did I not ask you today that you think is important to ask?
I would say, here's a good one. I would say, what are you, Dr. Colleen, still working on and learning about yourself?
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
When
have
you
to answer
point
it,
that
right?
finger inward. What is, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Spill it.
So I think that it's and the reason I'm saying that is because I think it's so important to reiterate that, like, I too am working on these same things. Life is so friggin' hard and messy, and that's just it. Like, I am also walking around every day being like, calm down, it's okay, take a pause. Where is that coming from? So it's just, again, I said that just to reiterate that no matter what, even your therapist is still working on it, right? Like, everyone is still trying to figure it out, and that's what connects us. That's really what brings us all together. I too am still working on it and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And I also love that therapists have therapists
Right.
as well. And so it just really proves that we all need self-reflection. We all have things within our unconscious that we don't even really know about. We have things that impacted us early on in life or even later on in life that we don't even realize that that's why we're acting the way we're acting. So that having that mirror or that pointing the finger back is really important in life.
Yeah, and it's all connected to the law of correspondence in a lot of ways, because that whole thing of, like, it's a mirror, right? We all still struggle because it's part of the human condition to make mistakes. We're not robots. we all have a million things happening. Like you said, life is hard, life gets lifey, and there's things around us at all times, right? So, like, you know, and if everyone could recognize that and not feel the need to rise above it all the time, or to be better than something, it would make life so much easier, you know. Like, tell people, like, I've started doing that, like, hey, I did not sleep well, so I am vulnerable today already. I walk into this room close to tears because I'm fucking tired. So, I would ask you, 6-year-old, please try not to scream. But if you do, I might cry. And that's not because you're bad. That's just because it's going to make my brain hurt. And it didn't make my brain hurt yesterday, but today it's going to make me cry. And that's that, So if you can help that, please. But if not, oh well. We're all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we do have a couple comments, and then I want to end with how people can connect with you.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
Dr. Joseph said, you ladies are phenomenal. Sorry, I have to run. Maria said, mine is anytime I'm calling folks, not their government name. I ask self when, how, and why I exhibited that behavior.
Love that.
I love that. Maria is so good at being curious.
Yes. And then Fakiha says, I'm very happy to be here. So we're glad you're here as well. All right. If people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to connect with you? And anything else that you might want to provide or offer to people?
Yeah, so please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love a virtual coffee chat. I'm a connector. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do go by Dr. Colleen Saringer on LinkedIn. And then, or you can shoot me an email at colleen@colleensaringer.com. Keeping it simple.
I love it.
Perfect. We both added. And so awesome. We just added your link. It's tried to add, I'm not sure, for you. And so just to recap, so it does show Colleen-Saringer.phd on the LinkedIn information. So if you want to connect, or you can just search by Dr. Colleen Saringer. And so I just want to say thank you. I love your spirit. The first time that I saw you speak in Savannah, I was like, I have to meet this person. I have to talk to this person. I just love just your energy. The way that you come across is just so lovely and just so welcoming to people. It's just the perfect person that really focuses on, understanding more about people within the workplace and helping people within the workplace. So I just love what it is that you're doing, and thank you for that. We really do need all of that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's just always an honor to be invited to someone's table. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you have a really delicate yet edgy way of balancing like reality, but still like holding space, and like you walk a really cool line of like, sometimes when people are so connected, they can come across like a little woo-woo, or a little like, like that's not realistic, and you have this like really, really cool balance where, 1 minute you can be like just so respectful, and the next minute you swear. And that's like, I think, cool and badass, because it's authentic and it's not, like you're really just being who you are, and it's clear that you are all those things. And I'm thrilled to have met you today, and this has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining us. It has been a lovely conversation. We are also planning on being back on next Friday, where Cate and I are going to get vulnerable on this topic.
It's Good Friday. It's right.
Yeah. It's on the 18th of April. I also do want to let everyone know it is our 100th episode next week. And so we're going to be celebrating that as well, but we're going to be getting vulnerable, talking about the law of correspondence and how it relates to our lives. And I just want to thank everyone for their interactiveness. You guys are always so great in bringing comments and just being here to help support us. So thank you so much for that.
Agree. Thank you, guys.
You want to end us?
Yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic, badass weekend. Go out, love yourself, spread that kindness that we know is so essential. Get reflective, and and meet us back here next week for some badass vulnerability.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.